we're going to get right into reacting to Seattle annihilating New England 29-13. This game, New England never really had a chance offensively. I don't think they picked up. I don't think they had a drive where they didn't punt until the third quarter. Excuse me, the fourth quarter. They punted on their first drives until their fourth quarter touchdown. Uh, Not a great game by Drake May. Almost 300 passing yards. A lot of those were garbage time yards. Did have 2 touchdowns. Did have 2 interceptions. Did have a strip sack fumble. Got sacked 6 times. Had a QBR of 16.3. On the other side, Sam Darnold with 19 for 38, 202 yards, 1 passing touchdown, quarterback rating of 53, and only got sacked 1 time. Fellas, what are your thoughts on this game? Let's start on the Seattle side of things because obviously they're the champions in the NFL. They're going to get the most recognition. But what were your thoughts on the way that Seattle played this game?
I mean, it went about exactly how everybody thought it was going to go. Seattle's just too good of a team. Defensively, they are front and back the best defense in the league. They proved it. They are the best defense Seattle has had since the Legion of Boom, and it is not close. Offensively, I mean, that line has been night and day difference from what we all thought it was going to be, especially compared to what it was last year. K9, I guess, we all were like complaining about how Kenneth Walker just doesn't get carries. Turns out it's because they just wanted them to be fresh to go for like 160 yards in the Super Bowl, which, you know what, man? Fair enough. I guess you got that one. Sam Darnold, you know what, man? You're a Super Bowl champion. Nobody can take that away from you. Was it because of Sam Darnold? No. But at the end of the day, there's nothing us talking head pundits can do to take away the fact that Sam Darnold has won a Super Bowl.
This game sucked. And I mean, everybody, I guess not everybody, Dawson took the Patriots, but I feel like a lot of people had a feeling, at least people that watched a lot of Seattle Seahawks football. And for some of us, especially here on this podcast, we had to at least do that twice this season, if not more. And this defense has been one of the better defenses in NFL history. And I mean, the last time Seattle had a great defense like that, they dominated a Super Bowl. It's funny that now looking back, their 2 Super Bowl championships are the most like unmemorable Super Bowl championship games like in the last like couple decades. No one talks about that Broncos Seahawks game. Everybody like recognizes the Super Bowl obviously, but no one really talks about how the moments in the game or anything really. And I don't know how many moments in this game people are going to really recognize or remember. Maybe it'll be just the dominant defensive play again from the Seahawks, and that's pretty much been the story, as well as Sam Darnold, man. I mean, what a story, really. May be one of the better like underdog stories in terms of a quarterback with all given the keys in New York, or at least being told that he had to do everything in New York, to everybody saying that he was washed up, going to Carolina, not really doing anything there, going to San Francisco and sitting a season under Shanahan, and then going to Minnesota and at least making a statement for sure. I don't know if anyone was like, "Oh, this is the sign that everybody needs to start thinking that Sam Darnold might be a quarterback that could be a part of a Super Bowl championship winning team." Minnesota obviously didn't think that, and they let him go. And I think that they won't ever admit it, but I definitely think they're rethinking a little bit, especially with how their season went. And here he is, Super Bowl champion, and you can't like literally he could go back to rookie year or the first couple years or his entire tenure in New York style of Sam Darnold, and you cannot take away the fact that he was a key part really of this run to the Super Bowl. By the way, I think he led the league in the regular season in turnovers. and I don't think they turned the ball over once this entire playoff run. So what a run for not only the defense, but really Sam Darnold too, because I don't know if I want to mention this, but I know that there's been some people on this podcast that have been waiting for Pumpkin Ball Sam Darnold to show up, and we got Drake May Pumpkin Ball.
I hate this. This is 2 years in a row doing a Super Bowl reaction show where I am just in shambles. I have to not only listen to this propaganda of Sam Darnold being a good quarterback, I have to now listen to propaganda that Drake May stinks, which Drake May playoffs did stink. That needs to be out in the open. Sam Darnold is closer to a Trent Dilfer being a part of the bus rider in like the 2000s Ravens than he was of being like an actual driving force of the Seattle team. He had good moments, but he's closer to me to Trent Dilfer on that Ravens team than he is to like I don't even know.
What world are we living in where Dawson is more openly critical about the Seattle Seahawks starting quarterback than I am? Or even Brock, you're in the same division.
Exactly. I'm not saying this is 100% how I feel right now, but depending on how this Seattle, because the overreaction that everybody has for the first time a team or a like era of a team wins a Super Bowl is okay. Can they do it again? And if so, could they be a dynasty? Like that's the automatic thing that people are thinking about. And in that hypothetical stance that this Seahawks team stays around, maybe even competes for another Super Bowl in the next 5 years, God forbid, wins another Super Bowl in the next 10 years. I think Sam Darnold is right now on pace to be closer to Eli Manning than you really think.
We'll see. I will admit that I was wrong at this far into his career. I did not think he would have a Super Bowl championship before Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. That I want to make clear. Like that is pretty wild when you look at it from a bird's eye view. But who would have thought Seattle would have won this game if I told you JSN's stat line was 4 catches for 27 yards and he was their 4th leading receiver? Like that was truly impressive. And they had the one opportunity early in the game to score a quick touchdown. Darnold missed JSN open downfield. Granted, I will say Darnold was pressured on that throw, so that was going to be a tough pass to make. That really could have blown the door open. I was sitting next to my dad watching the game. I'm like, watch, that play could mean something later on. Turned out it meant absolutely nothing because Seattle just was able to control the line of scrimmage pretty much the entire game. But I will give Sam his flowers. He did have a good Super Bowl, and he had a great playoff run. Like you said, no turnovers. Only got sacked one time. Braden, you mentioned it. The Seattle offensive line has played far better than a lot of people would have thought going into the year. That's been Seattle's MO. Just don't turn the ball over. Let the running backs take over. Granted, no Charbonnet this game, but Kenneth Walker didn't. Who would have thought that Kenneth Walker would have had 160 yards going into this game? And ultimately taken home Super Bowl MVP. So kudos to Sam Darnold to wrap my thoughts on Seattle. I've been a harsh critic of Darnold, but he did in fact win the Super Bowl, so I will have to give him some sort of respect.
Which quarterback would you rather have? This is regular season numbers. Both quarterbacks end up going on to win the Super Bowl. Quarterback A threw for completes 56% of his passes, 3,300 yards.
Is this Trent Dilfer?
23? No. 23 touchdowns, 20 interceptions, led the league in interceptions, and a QBR of 52. Or a quarterback that completes 68%, a little over 4,000 yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 14 interceptions, and a QBR rating of 55.7.
Well, I know quarterback B is Sam Darnold, but is quarterback A, is that Eli in his first Super Bowl?
That's Eli's first Super Bowl run.
Yeah. We'll see.
Again, I'm not trying to like.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to like overreact, obviously, but like he might be the closest in terms of like this generation's Eli Manning than I think people think.
that's
And
that's fair.
which is funny given that they both played in New York. One just played for the wrong New York team, really, when you think of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you take away those two Giants Super Bowls that Eli won. How much different are the Giants than the Jets? Like since Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah. I think the Giants are the only team in NFL history to win a Super Bowl in 4 straight decades. Now they have to win one in the 2020s, obviously, for that streak to continue.
They will not
but
be winning one in the
I
2020s.
don't envision Jackson Dart
Unless
will be leading
Scatterboo
them.
runs for 3,000 yards next year.
Even then, I would still take the under on their Super Bowls.
He'd be getting carried
but-
off on a stretcher after every play if that happened.
Yep, they won one in the 80s, 90s, thousands, and then obviously 2011 for the 2010s. But no, I don't hate that take. Moving over to the other side of the field, we have to talk about the Patriots and the disappointing game that Drake May and the New England offense had. Braden, I'm gonna start with you. How disappointed are you with Drake May and more specifically the Patriots offense as a whole?
There is I believe it's an RDC World skit that comes to mind. Christian Gonzalez and Craig Woodson. If you know where this goes, you know where it goes. For the sake of keeping this PG, I will refrain from quoting it. But those two had to have been raising some hell in that locker room because they were putting their lives on the line to keep New England in this game, and it just didn't matter. Drake May was getting actually killed behind that offensive line. Will Campbell, I've been doing what I can to try to give you grace, buddy. I mean, you've gone up against some really good edge rushers this playoffs. He's been getting grilled. Like, listen, he's going against like some of the best edge rushers in the NFL. And no disrespect to Derek Hall. He's a pretty good edge rusher in his own right, but he's not Nick Benito. He's not Will Anderson. Like we gave you this grace because you were going against like some of the best in the league. You let allowing this many sacks in the Super Bowl, and it's not just him. Jared Wilson also allowed sacks. The entire offensive line really was getting killed all game. And Drake May himself was not exactly doing much to help either. But that front, man, they got to look to improve somewhere. Whether it be get another tackle and move Will Campbell to guard, or I think Vrabel said that he's committed to keeping Will Campbell at tackle for the foreseeable future. You got to do something. If that is improve the interior, getting another guard in there, or getting an actual tackle that can actually reach the top shelf, whatever you got to do to improve that offensive line, that game and this entire, really the whole playoff run, you made it to the Super Bowl, but with, I think, one of the worst offenses in football, really, this playoffs. I think I saw a stat like Drake May had statistically one of the worst playoff runs for a team that won 3 games in the playoffs. Like, it's actually insane how, like, Drake May was the Justin Herbert MVP voter away from winning the award. Like, this is a month ago. And now we go to this month and it's just what are we even doing? It's night and day difference. And if I am a Patriots fan, I would be lying if I said I am not worried about that. But at the same time, this entire team is still like incredibly young. So there is plenty of time to learn from this, develop, figure out how to, like, all right, we kind of struggled this playoffs. We got lucky to get to where we were. How can we build on this and make this a dynasty? But man, that was a rough watch if I'm a Patriots fan.
Yeah. I completely agree. It was not a good showing for Drake May this postseason. He had some spurts where it's like, okay, there's the guy that maybe could become the next big thing or whatever. And I said when we were previewing the game last week that Drake May would have to like really fully introduce himself to the world as a top 5 quarterback, top 10 quarterback in the league in order for the Patriots to win. And he, again, it wasn't completely just him, but like he did not perform at the level that even gets you in the conversation of top 10 really in terms of like heading into next year, just because it was just the cherry on top of a underwhelming postseason run for him. And yeah, he was one vote away from tying MVP votes, which have they ever had a tie for an MVP ever?
There have been co-MVPs before.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
I think
think,
McNair and Manning, didn't they
Okay.
have a
That
co-MVP
sounds right.
That sounds about right.
I think
in the early
McNair was one of
2000s?
them.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so to be co-MVP at this young in your career, that's amazing. But man, if anything, it's probably fortunate that you didn't, because if you would have been a co-MVP and performed like that, the pressure's even maxed out even more, I think, heading into next season versus, okay, you were one vote away and you really just did not perform well in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens with you next year. Offensive line obviously needs to get better. And when you look at some of the teams that they played this postseason, you just go, man, okay, let's say the Chargers make the Super Bowl. Same thing would have happened because that offensive line was completely beat up as well. Houston, potentially same thing would have happened because their offensive line has been in question a couple of times, and you can't trust CJ Stroud, it looked like in the big games. And then I hate saying this because like it sounds terrible, but like Bo Nix chose the worst time to break your foot, because like if it would have been a game before, there's a good chance we would have gotten Bills and Seahawks in the Super Bowl, and not that that would have made this a lot better, but at least you would have had Sam Darnold defeated Josh Allen in a way, even though they're never on the same field at the same time together. But it was, the Seahawks had a rougher road to get to the Super Bowl, and the Patriots, I mean, I think all year have been kind of considered one of the easier paths to the Super Bowl. And the best team this season really won the Super Bowl, in my opinion. The best overall team won, is at the end of the day. And I can't hate on Drake May because, like, again, the offensive line was rough, and yes, he did perform rough and not to his full potential, I feel like. But the Seahawks, again, just an unbelievable, well put together team, and that's credit to the coaching staff and the front office.
I have a stat pulled up, and I'm sure everyone and their mother has seen this stat. Any of you know what EPA is? This is a nerd stat, but do you know what NFL quarterback EPA is?
I don't remember what it stands for, but I'm familiar with the concept.
Do we
It's
need to bring back this graphic since you're bringing up the nerd?
maybe, but it's expected points added is the stat,
Okay.
and basically just takes into account how many sacks you take, how many interceptions, how many turnovers you have as a quarterback, completion percentage, all that, and it piles it up and it spits out a formula. Here are the top 5 worst playoff runs when it comes to EPA for quarterbacks. Number 5, we have Jared Goff in 2018, when they made the Super Bowl and were held to 3 points against the Patriots. Number 4 is Joe Flacco in 2008. I think this is Flacco's rookie year, so I'll kind of dismiss that one to the side, or at least his rookie year or second year in the league. Then we have Rex Grossman in 2006 when they made the Super Bowl against the Colts. He had an EPA of negative 22.5. Next, in second, we have Peyton Manning in 2015 when Peyton Manning was an absolute skeleton of himself when they ended up beating the Panthers in Super Bowl 50. Drake May, by far and away, holds a spot for the worst quarterback EPA in a playoff run in NFL history at negative 29.2. The difference between May at 1 and Manning at 2 is the same difference as number 2 to number 5. If that shows you the like step stool, like it's one giant step from May to Manning. Just objectively did not have a great playoff run. And there was talk that he had a shoulder issue, but I'm going to be honest, at this point in the year, everyone's hurt.
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not on the injury report.
No one's
Maybe
75%.
Yeah, everyone is banged up. You played 22 weeks of NFL football consecutively, not just games, but training camp, practice, postseason. Like football is a long and it's a demanding sport. You start in July and your season, hopefully, if you're lucky, ends in February. So I don't want to hear that excuse. Just looked like a guy that was in his second year starting, and it looked like a team that like had been mentioned all year, which I don't know why I didn't recognize, played a cupcake schedule, and the second they run into a good Seattle team, they just get utterly annihilated on offense. I mentioned earlier this team did not have a drive that wasn't a punt until the first drive of the fourth quarter. Honestly, if you would have removed the jersey colors and removed the teams on the graphic, you could convince me this is like peak 2023 Iowa Hawkeyes with Deacon Hill and Spencer Petras at the helm. That you could, the way the New England offense was performing, they had 79 yards or 78 yards at halftime.
That's insulting to Deacon Hill.
True.
The people I was watching the game with, I literally looked at them and said the Big Ten West never dies.
Dude.
In the third quarter.
And it's not even like Seattle had this unbelievable game plan on offense. It was just like, all right, we're going to get down to the 20-yard line. We're going to kick a 40-yard field goal. We're going to just chip away, build big enough lead where New England eventually has to fold over. Again, it wasn't until the fourth quarter when we started to get some scoring. Quarters 1 through 3, there was 12 combined points by both teams, aka all Seattle's points. In the fourth quarter, we got 30 points. It just, none of them really mattered. No one really was caring or watching at that point in the game. Certainly a disappointing finish for the Patriots. I have one more stat, and then we'll get to just our final thoughts of the NFL season, and then we'll look ahead to odds for next year. Of quarterbacks who make the Super Bowl and lose their first Super Bowl,
none of them
there's
get back,
only
right?
been what?
Is it like very few or none of them get back? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. I believe only Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts won their following Super Bowl, so that he's even an outlier. But Super Bowls, quarterbacks that make their first Super Bowl and lose it, their next Super Bowl, they lose their next one, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Jim Kelly made a Super Bowl in the early 90s. Obviously, Bills had 4 in a row where they just kept losing. John Elway made a Super Bowl, lost his first, I think 2 or 3 before he finally won one. And I think it's Frank Tarkenton made like 3 or 4 in the 70s in the Mailman and Plumber era and lost every single one. So it shows you, outside of like the Jalen Hurts outlier, it's super hard to get back to this game and end up winning when you lose the first one, if that makes sense.
It's hard to get back in general. Like there's a really good chance this was the only chance Sam Darnold and Drake May will ever have to get a Super Bowl. I mean the years that it was Chiefs. I don't want to. I'm not trying to bring down anyone in this, but it was Chiefs 49ers, and that game was unbelievable. And I think a lot of people were predicting that would just run it back the next year or maybe the next couple years. And then like the 49ers have kind of just been stuck, really, in all honesty, in recent memory. Of course, injuries haven't helped, but it's really hard for quarterbacks or just teams in general and how they're structured to come back and get back to the Super Bowl. That's why it's so huge to win a Super Bowl. Anyone that ever wins a Super Bowl as a starting player deserves all the praise for what they've been able to do, just because it is so hard to be able to do that.
Well, here's the thing. Think of like the Bengals when they made the Super Bowl. It's like, oh, Cincinnati's going to be hanging around year after year after year.
I called that BS years ago.
Cincinnati's made the playoffs one time since they made the Super Bowl.
I knew that was stinky right away when people were jumping on that. Dawson, you can back me up on that.
Yeah. it's. I think New England fans are going to be kicking themselves because, not to say Seattle wasn't a great team, because Seattle was a great team, but I feel like this was the one down year in the NFL where anyone could have won the Super Bowl, if that makes sense. And Seattle was able to just jump on that. This, I think, was the year of the unexpected upset in the NFL. Like the odds on, I think New England before the year was 80-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think Seattle was like 60-1. Like something just completely absurd. I think New England 10, 15 years from now is really going to be kicking themselves for the way they performed. I think it's the first time they've gotten blown out in a Super Bowl, not with Brady. And they may have won like the 80s, but I think this ties New England for the most Super Bowl losses ever, too. It's the stat I saw.
I think it does. It was like if they won, it was the most, and if they lost, it was the most.
Yep. So, I mean, that's what happens when you make the Super Bowl so many dang times.
Yeah. We didn't even really talk about Kenneth Walker was the one that ended up taking home Super Bowl MVP. Did you guys like the Kenneth Walker pick for Super Bowl MVP?
I wanted it to be Jason Myers so bad.
Yeah.
It was never going to be. You couldn't even vote for him on the fan vote. It should have been, but if it can't be the kicker, then I'm not mad at it being K9. I mean, he was the entire offense until they decided to just stop playing defense in the fourth quarter. He really was the only one putting them into field goal range for Jason Myers to make those kicks anyways. But yeah, I guess.
I'll go out on a limb. This is the closest we'll ever see a kicker to win Super Bowl MVP, just because this was the script for something like this to happen, where it's like no scoring, no offensive player. Walker had a bunch of yards, but didn't even get a touchdown. Like,
I think Roger made the boss call. Roger saw in the start of the fourth quarter, like no touchdowns had been scored. Jason Myers is about to line up to win this Super Bowl MVP. Roger's like, all right, we gotta do something about this. We can't let this happen.
Jason Myers himself outscored the Patriots. He had 17 points. He had 5 field goals and 2 PATs.
Yeah.
Like, if he doesn't win the MVP off that, we're never, ever, ever going to see a kicker win Super Bowl MVP in our lifetime, it's a sad reality.
Yeah, it was a business decision. Let's be honest. If a kicker would have won, it was already a bad game. If it was a close game, like if it was just field goals back and forth, and like the final score was 18-15, and it literally was all field goals, okay, that makes sense. But like the game was already so bad that like they had to make something like I feel like only like diehard NFL fans would have loved seeing the kicker win Super Bowl MVP. It was a business decision, so they can be like, well, first running back since was it Tomlinson?
Or Tomlinson won regular season MVP.
Regular season.
He's the first running back since
Damian Williams, probably, right?
I am blanking.
Wow, I'm having this.
Damian Williams in 2020.
Mahomes won that one. Since Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis, that's what it was.
Mahomes
back in 1998.
I forgot about that. Yeah, no, I remember that now. It should have been him.
First run, like that's why I'm like, this Super Bowl sucked, dude. I feel bad for K9 because like, except for the years I drafted him in fantasy, and he's been a great player.
Yeah.
So literally outside of his rookie year and this year, because he's only played 4 years.
Did all this in the Super Bowl just to still get out touched by George Halloumi in the regular season next year.
Yeah. See here's the thing. Let's assume Charbonnet doesn't get hurt and Walker doesn't have a crazy game. Then Myers may have a shot. If Walker and Charbonnet both have like 50 yards rushing and maybe 10 to 15 receiving each, then it's like, okay, Myers, all right, you can. Or would they give it to, was it Nwosu? They got the pick 6.
Uchenna Nwosu, yeah, probably.
They might give it to him, but the game was a blowout by that point anyway. So
when was the last time the Super Bowl MVP didn't score a touchdown?
I think Edelman. Edelman in that 13-3. Let me fact check myself. But I don't think he scored. Yeah, he didn't score a touchdown in that game.
Okay.
His stats in that one were
I forgot Edelman won a
10 receptions, 141 yards.
jeez.
So, yeah, the only touchdown in that game was Sony Michel. So shout out that guy.